Welcome to MRE Uncut, where we'll give you real and practical insights into the real estate scene in Melbourne. We'll discuss what's happening in the industry, all backed by MRE's history of over 30 years in the game. With that said, let's jump into this week's episode of MRE Uncut.
Welcome back to another MRE podcast. My name's Steve Fitzsimon and I'm here with Laura Moody.
Hello.
Hi, Laura. Laura is the head of training at MRE, and thank you for joining us today. We've also got a guest today, John Liddell, from Managing Director of the Mould Doctor. Welcome, John.
Thanks, Steve.
So we asked John to come in because we've got such an interesting change in legislation recently that has made mould in a property an urgent repair, and therefore things are being mixed up in that sector of the industry. But the Mould Doctor's been around for a fair bit longer than that. John, could you give us some background to the company pre-legislation?
Sure. I had a commercial cleaning business, and about 17 years ago, we identified mould was becoming a problem, and particularly in newer developments in apartments. Quite often people say to us, you must see mould in old houses, but it's actually more in the new builds.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So we decided to become experts in all things mould, and we then launched the Mould Doctor, and we identified that a key channel to market would be via property managers. So we worked hard at supporting property managers, helping them with education. You guys may recall we came into your office about 2 or 3 years ago and spoke to your team. Along came COVID and that all finished. So we were doing sessions via Zoom.
Yep.
And they were very popular, and because people were able to watch them at their leisure. From that process, we found that when we would do a Zoom session, at the end, I would always get the same 5 or 6 questions.
Okay.
From property managers.
What were they, if you don't mind going into a bit more detail?
What causes mould? How do you treat it?
Yep.
Pardon me. What are the main preventions? What do we do about ventilation?
Okay.
So we produced an information video that we send out, and it's available to anybody that requests it, which specifically covers our process. Runs only for about 12 minutes, but it takes us through what we do to schedule an inspection, how we handle the inspection, the details of the report that we feed back, so that the property owner or property manager gets an understanding of the issue in the property, and we provide the preventative and treatment recommendations.
So if somebody now is listening to this and they've got a problem with mould in their property, where do they find that video?
They can go onto the moulddoctor.com.au, and there's at the start of the video, at the start of the website, there's a click now button, and that will give a general overview, but sitting behind it, we have got one specifically designed for property managers.
Okay. So property managers are good, and they can communicate that stuff out. So that everything's sort of been done for them, and they've just got to get informed. I'm fascinated. You mentioned before that the perception might be old houses, but the reality is newer apartments. Why are they suffering from mould?
Okay, so you may recall there was a change in energy rating, and it went from looked like 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, 6-star.
Yeah, now it's 7, I think.
Correct. So in the pursuit of having a building that was 5 or 6-star energy rated, it meant that it had to be tightly sealed, so it wouldn't let the warm air out and let the cold air in.
Right.
So I'm sure you've been into a number of apartments that don't have air exchange systems, and most of the investor style, the lower cost ones, the more upmarket ones have air exchange systems, but the lower cost ones don't, and it's often like stepping into a sauna.
Okay, so
because they just don't breathe.
Perfect. So let's look at this thing from, again, I'm trying to think from an investor who's looking to buy a property. How do they tell if it's got an air exchange system?
I'm just looking up here. You would see grills in the ceiling.
Okay.
Where it's moving air around.
Okay. And does that move air throughout the apartment or outside of the apartment?
No, it moves it. Drawing dry air from outside and circulating around and pushing the moist air out.
From outside of the apartment?
Yes.
So similar to the house setup where you'd have the grills up the top inside and the grills outside.
Yeah.
down the bottom.
Exactly.
Yep.
You're talking about the ones in the brickwork.
In the
little
brickwork
slats
and in
that
the
you see in
plasterwork.
Well, that's their passive vents. They don't really do anything, because
Okay.
if the wind's blowing at 100 k's down the side of your property, it doesn't stop and do a left-hand turn and squeeze through those grills.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
and these ones are different. They're mechanised.
they're mechanised.
Okay.
And the problem is with you can't retrofit air exchange systems.
No.
So therefore, you can't really fix the cause in a lot of cases, in apartments particularly. A lot of the moisture and dampness comes from condensation.
So, sorry, I want to dig a little bit deeper.
Sure.
Like, I understand, okay, we all want to get 6, 7 stars, whatever the star rating is that floats your boat. I'm happy with that. But didn't they think about mould when they started creating these, what do we want to call them, igloos that don't exchange this air around? Like, shouldn't the standards change?
And it's one of the issues has got there's a failure in the building standards. We've met with people from HIA. All the builders and developers are aware of the flaw in the standards, and it's not going to change in our lifetime.
Why?
I have no idea.
So who runs that then? Who do we get in to have our next chat with? Do you know what I mean? Like, because that for me, it sounds like, because we're talking about something that you and I have spoken before. It's significantly unhealthy to have mould in properties. Yet I'm cautious of saying the G word that I use a bit. The government has created a system that is creating more dangerous homes for Victorians to live in. And yet there doesn't seem to be a clear way of resolving something in a manner that can be resolved at construction phase. Doesn't that sound ridiculous?
So,
sorry, it's probably going to harm your business if we change it.
Well, you said that, not me.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
So, look, just veering off that for a second, one of the issues that you've got, and it gets back to the 6-star and 7-star rating rate where there's tightly sealed.
Yeah.
We're heading into mould season. Footy season's mould season when it's the colder time of the year.
Calm the blues.
Yeah, please. You're breaking up. So condensation's a massive issue.
Yeah.
So when they're in apartments that don't really breathe, they'll probably have a single little ventilation system in the bathroom, and that's it.
That's most of the stock that we handle.
So the moisture from that condensation, it's all very well to say, as part of the tenancy agreement, to instruct the tenant to wipe the windows down, the window ledges every day. Well, they won't do it.
Yeah.
So the moisture will always find its way to the warmest, driest place in a room. I'm talking specifically apartments here.
Yeah.
So it'll finish up behind the bedhead, behind the chest of drawers, and more importantly, into the wardrobe.
Ah, gotcha.
And I'm sure you've heard tenants say,
they move the bed and their clothes get trashed. Yeah.
Or there's mould on the contents, and they want to put in a claim for a $3,000 leather jacket we had to throw out, or a Gucci bag or something like that.
Yeah, they conveniently don't have the receipt for.
Yeah. So correct.
But yeah, I get. Look, I think everything you're saying is making sense, right? So what I'm trying to get to here is from the tenant's point of view, right? They're going into buildings. So essentially, if you're a tenant and you want to avoid mould, an old house is not necessarily a bad problem. It's more the new modern apartments that they should be avoiding.
Correct.
Right. So that's a great starting point. If they're looking at a new modern apartment, they should be considering whether or not it's got this, what was the words that you used?
Air exchange system.
Air exchange system, because I know that Lendlease, for example, their ones do have an air exchange system in their developments that they've got in Richmond, the Studio 9 development. They've got an air exchange system, and I thought that was interesting.
There's also some split system models, and reverse cycle have the dry function. I've been a renter in an apartment, and I know how hard it is to manage condensation. You have your window open 24/7 throughout winter. The temperature of the apartment does not drop below 21 degrees, even without the heater on.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to manage any moisture in there if you don't keep those windows
that's super
open.
valid too.
So the dry function on the split systems is actually really helpful to be using rather than pumping out heat.
It is, but you've got a significant cost for an AC system with a dehumidifier mode, and they've got to be installed. The option to that is we put thousands of portable dehumidifiers in.
So I want to go down both of these pathways because this is really interesting stuff. Laura, if if a tenant walks in to a rental inspection that they're looking to rent a property, and they see a dehumidifier in the corner of the room, what is their reaction?
First off, they would ask if it's been left by the previous renter.
Yeah.
And if it's staying, what is it?
Yeah.
Majority of tenants wouldn't know unless they've had that situation
And
before.
if you tell them that that's a dehumidifier,
then they'll ask why. Has there been mold before?
Bingo. Right. So I love the idea of treating a problem with a dehumidifier. What I don't like from a standpoint of, okay, how do we fix this moving forward as an owner? Of having a dehumidifier, because then when the next tenants move in, because what I've seen is that tenants, if they've got mold, they don't like the property, they get a dehumidifier, that fixes it for winter. But you know what? It's summer, they move out because they don't want to live in that moldy place again for another 12 months. So you lose them. The component that I'm thinking of is right at the moment, the government's saying, okay, you've got to have an energy efficient heater in an apartment. So if you've got an old 60s apartment with a electric panel heater on the wall, that's no longer compliant, and you've got to get an air conditioning unit put in. We should think about seriously installing one that's got the dry function so that we're able to do that. And then secondly, and I don't know, you'll have more expertise on this in terms of the capability of doing this, but if your air conditioner in a more modern apartment carks it, then it's worthwhile paying a little bit more to get one with a dry functionality if the one that is being suggested doesn't have it, because that's going to assist in minimizing the likelihood of getting mold in your apartment. Would that be?
Yes and no. The issue with and I'm not sure whether you experienced it with the AC unit, is that it's committed to one room because it's got to be fully installed.
Yeah.
The dehumidifiers are portable.
Right.
And we've got them that will cater for it. They won't do a four bedroom, 2-story home.
Yeah.
But most issues in apartments particularly are in bedrooms.
Yeah.
With 1 or 2 people sleeping there. I don't know. There's a fun fact for the day that sleeping during the night, you will expel about in excess of 1 litre of moisture.
I actually learnt that after COVID, because during COVID we had a lot of mold complaints and we couldn't work it out. And I think it might have been from Hickory, one of the builders actually let me know, due to all the building standards and people living at home longer, even just sitting here, our body's expelling moisture.
Correct. So if you've got a couple of people in a bedroom for 8 hours, there's 2 or 3 litres of moisture coming from them.
Yeah. And so the dehumidifier is grabbing that.
Correct.
And if you've got a dehumidifier in your aircon in the living room, 1, you're probably unlikely to have it operational at night time. And then 2, it's not in the right room where the humidity is. And that humidity, as you said before, is going to go to the warmest spot, which is not in the lounge room because there's no one in there.
So the dehumidifiers that we've got, they're what they call a desiccant style. There's desiccant and compressor. The compressor styles are more popular in tropical climates like far north Queensland and Bali, whatever. But in an apartment, we've got them that'll service an area of 50 to 70 square metres.
That's most apartments.
Most apartments. So if it's a 2-bedroom one, for example, you can actually run them if there's room in the passageway between. Install it between or plug it in between both bedrooms, and that will lower the humidity in that area, and the high humidity is drawn to the low humidity.
Okay. So I guess it's just if there's an area of lower humidity, it's going to come towards that, so it evens out. So therefore, you don't have as much likelihood of the mold forming, because it's not like these places need a huge change; they just need a change.
If there's no moisture, there's no mold. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And the other probably 50% of properties we're going with, their new apartments or older properties, there's bathroom mold.
Yeah.
Now that's generally because
they're your older properties, yeah.
Yeah, but even the newer apartments, because of the energy costs changing, residents are often reluctant to run the
extractor
fan for an extended period. We're finding, you've probably seen, I'm sure, in some of your properties, the old style IXL, they were a bit trendy.
Yeah, the Tastic ones
with a heater. Now that's counterproductive because the heater will elevate the moisture, elevate the humidity. So
you think it's drying, but it's actually just increasing the humidity.
And when humidity gets over 55%, that's the sort of level that the conditions then become ideal for mould to grow. So those are a bit gimmicky because it's nice to get out of the shower. It's a nice warm room,
Yeah.
but it will grow the mould. And you've got the older style Mistral. I use Mistral, not canning the brand, but
Yeah.
that's what you see. They were pretty
Yeah.
popular. People will use the shower or the bath. As soon as they're finished, they'll turn the fan off. And it's not running long enough to extract the moisture that's caused these. So we put units in that have got a run-on timer, so they can flick it off, and it can run anything between 5 minutes and 20 minutes. We just set it. And
so you go.
I was going to ask, how much are these for tenants to run? Because I know when you have flood issues and they have to have the dryer fans, tenants can get quite concerned about their electricity bills being higher.
Dehumidifiers during condensation times need to run for 5 to 6 hours a day, and you're not running them 52 weeks of the year, but for a few months of the year, and it's about $3 a week.
Right, so it's not it's peanuts.
It's less than a coffee.
$3 a week. Yeah,
so less than a coffee, and you've got a solution to your mould.
Yeah,
and I think most people would wear the $3 if they didn't have the clothes. What was it? How much was the leather jacket?
Yeah.
But we get what it's not expensive.
Just I'm not mindful of time, but
no,
these units have a laundry mode. So in a lot of apartments, people don't have a dryer. They're not allowed to hang the stuff out on the balconies.
Yeah.
So they can just put them on a clothes horse, flick it onto laundry mode. The next morning, your clothes will be dry.
Right. Okay. So interesting. So let's go through this because I'm conscious. I'm trying to cater for everybody. So if you're a tenant and you've got mould in your property, report it. That's the most important thing. Take photos, email it so you've got records. Do that. Communicate with your property manager. Convey the seriousness of it because it is a health hazard. And then they should get in people like the Mould Doctor to come and have a look at it and assess and give recommendations as to what should be done. And because it's an urgent repair, it should be done quickly. And that should be the pathway. If it's not done, they can then apply to VCAT and ask for an order that it's done or go and spend the money themselves. But we understand that tenants are reluctant to put up cash when they don't know if the owner's going to give it back to them. But there are procedures to follow, and we'll cover that a bit more in another podcast. That's from the tenant side. Preventative, they can look at these dehumidifiers. They cost about $3 a week to run. And then all the basic stuff like air the place out, clean things, dry the windows if they can, to try and prevent it, at least in the meantime before a dehumidifier is installed or the Mould Doctors had an opportunity to come out, create the solutions and then advise them for the solutions to occur. So there's those little wins. Bleach.
Could I just go back one second?
Yeah, go back one.
The other issue that we need to touch on is that's one issue, condensation, but the other significant factor is building defects.
Yeah, you're right.
There's been overlooking of the building standards.
Yeah.
And sadly there's been a number of builders go broke, but we've got instances where builders have had to reduce costs, cut corners, so therefore areas that should be waterproofed haven't been waterproofed. Planter boxes on balconies, next thing water's pouring in and it's getting onto the carpets and everything.
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
And there's, leaks from above. So one of the things we do in our report is we'll take moisture and humidity readings, but we're not building inspectors, I'll make that clear, but we can always nail the cause generally.
Yeah.
And the moisture readers will identify whether there's any moisture in the wall. Quite often you might be in a lounge room and you'll see a section of mould on the lounge room wall.
Yeah.
How in the hell's that got there? I'll guarantee the other side of that wall's the bathroom.
Yeah, from another apartment or from the same apartment, whatever it is.
From an ensuite or something.
Gone.
So there's either defective waterproofing or no waterproofing.
So if you're buying an apartment, you want to have those checks done at the time of purchase because that's going to prevent you from buying a lemon. It's a wise investment. So we've got the tenants sort of sitting there and going, okay, that's their procedure. If we've got an owner and they've got mould, then they're getting the report done and they're doing those steps. So if they were to get those timers that you're talking about, are they expensive to get the timers put on the exhaust fans so that they hang around for a bit longer?
We put an all-in-one unit that's a high extraction rate, 76 litres per second.
Yeah, that's a new exhaust fan, is it?
Yeah,
right.
Because the old ones need to be replaced because they're just not effective usually.
Okay, that's interesting. So the ones that you'll normally have in your apartments may be very low in terms of the number of litres of air that they're extracting.
Yeah.
And you guys will recommend a stronger one. and then that will hang around and function after you turn the lights off.
Correct.
And you can set that up in terms of the time, and you'll recommend the time?
Yeah, if it's a good fan there, any qualified electrician can install a run-on timer to the switch.
Yeah.
But often it's an old fan that just needs to be upgraded. It's not a big investment.
Right.
$890 we charge. That's for the fan, the hard wiring, the install, the ducting, and the whole bit.
Right. Okay. So it's not that it costs preventative in terms of you're going to be able to fix this up. Okay. So we've got that from the owner's side. We've got a bit of preventative stuff in terms of when you're looking to buy it. You've got some resolution stuff when you've got a problem, and you've got some tenant tip in terms of the newer apartments are where you're going to see it more than likely.
In just referring back to bathrooms, quite often if you're looking and you see a lot of bubbling paint and plaster in the ceiling, that won't have come from condensation, from inadequate ventilation. I'll guarantee that there's a bathroom above it
that's leaking. The
waterproofing's failed.
John, you've been an absolute wisdom of information today. I really appreciate you coming in. Laura, thanks for joining us today. That's a heap of information. We'd probably go over 3 podcasts for today, but that'll do. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for the opportunity.